Welcome. It's good to see some new faces, and always welcome and happy to see familiar faces. My name is Ambika, and I have had the great joy of studying here for 5 years and have been continuing to participate in programs because I really do believe that Ayurveda answers so many questions and can help us have a greater appreciation for life and become partners with our lives rather than fighting against certain things that life is full of, including menstruation. So today, I'm going to suggest that each month can actually be an opportunity to celebrate our special nature as women. And as for me, I don't have this opportunity to celebrate in the same way because I've gone through menopause, and it's been a while since I've had periods. And I wish that when I was still experiencing menstruation that I knew about Ayurveda and I knew about a system that could help me stop resisting and go with the flow, so to speak. So today we're going to talk about the way we treat ourselves during menstruation and a little bit how that, by extension, applies to how we treat ourselves all month long. So it's important that we understand how to support this natural process of cleansing. And that's what it is. It's a monthly cleansing. Shubha talked about it as part of the reproductive cycle, and certainly it is. Our bodies are preparing to receive a fertilized egg, and when that doesn't happen, the natural result is that we shed this layer of nutritional blood that would be nourishing the egg in its early stages. So it is a cleansing, and it can be viewed as that for every woman. I read something while I was preparing this talk that this is not scientifically based, but someone was saying they think that the monthly cycle is connected to women's longer longevity in life. That because we have this cycle and we are cleansing on a regular basis, that our tendency to rejuvenate is greater. Something to think about. I'd never thought about it that way before. So if you experience discomfort before or during your cycle, we're going to take a look at some of the things that you can do to reduce that. And you'll find that if you do have, like Ananta spoke about, that tremendous pain, it's not something that's going to go away in a month. You know, if you've been having habits and ways of living that have been ongoing, it's going to take 4 or 5 months of some concentrated implementing some new ways of doing things until you really have a consistent result and you start feeling a lot better. And that's not to say that in 2 or 3 months, if you're having minor symptoms, that you wouldn't feel a lot better, but it's not something that is an overnight kind of solution. So Shubha talked about the 3 energies in the body, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And when menstruation is happening, she also mentioned that Vata is extremely active and important in moving the energy down and out. So there's a particular kind of Vata that is responsible for this kind of downward and outward movement. We're not going to get into the technical terms of Ayurveda today, but for you to know that anything that gets in the way of this downward motion is going to be unnatural and is not going to be going with the flow. So when we talk about types of activity that create upward movement, you want to avoid the kind of activity that's going to cause this flow to back up, so to speak. So jumping, headstands, or any kind of inverted postures, swimming, excessive working, excessive exercise of any kind, all of these tend to disturb the downward flow. Included in this category of improper postures is sexual intercourse during your period. If you really think about it, at this time, the vagina is not in a place to be receiving things. It's letting go. So to engage in sexual intercourse is counter to the natural flow of your period. In older cultures, the time of the menses was a time for women to rest and retreat from regular activities. In this day and age, with our busy lives, that's not always even a possibility. However, when you become mindful of this time of the month and take some precautions about scheduling, enlist your partner or your family in knowing that you would like to have a little downtime. Those are things that just psychologically can actually improve your outlook. So in former days in India, women were actually relieved of daily duties, so they could go into seclusion and they could experience this cleansing on both a physical and mental level. So it was really a time to retreat, to rebalance, to acknowledge kind of the internal nature of oneself, and psychologically to kind of rebound. Now, when we don't have time to take out, the cycle can become a real burden because our bodies naturally want to do that. They naturally want to slow down, step back, and take a break. So, of course, we're going to experience some effect of that. And that's not to say these activities are the only things that get in the way of the downward flow. I've noted here also too much talking or too much focused thinking. So if you think about taking time to reflect, taking time to rest, it's a time of quiet, so you're not talking a lot. And the type of thinking that you're doing is a little more right-brained, where it's not focused and intensely engaging. So even too much talking is going to aggravate the vata. So naturally during the month we all experience different levels of energy. And a natural thing, or one of the things you can notice about the menstrual cycle, is that mid-cycle, and that's during the time of ovulation, there's a tendency to be more energized, more outgoing, more feeling like you can, take on the world. But if you notice as you get just close to starting your period, sometimes there's a tendency to kind of want to push away, push back the world, kind of retreat and take care of yourself and go inward. It's something that we may even not pay attention to because we're so used to pushing through and doing what we have to do. But again, just the attention that you can bring to it will make a difference because you'll feel less victimized by your own body, less victimized by this process that is so natural. And so you are going to have, you are going to notice these difference in energies throughout the month. And then a lot of us, and I remember, one of the things I remember most about the menstrual cycle was the moodiness, the actual change in the way I would respond to people. And that can be very different for different women. It can range from anything from anxiety, nervousness, fear, insecurity kind of, to anger and irritability, or it might even range to depression, and a kind of depression where you're emotionally eating. So each woman is different. You may have some of these, you may have all of them, and you may have some 1 month and others the next month. And that's what's kind of interesting about your cycle, because according to Ayurveda, you can almost use your cycle as a barometer to see where your body's out of balance, depending upon the type of symptoms that you have. So if you're really angry and irritable, that's associated with pitta, which is the heat in your body. So if you're having a lot of irritability, a lot of anger, you might want to cut down or cut out hot and spicy foods from your diet during the period, but also looking at your level of activity. I mean, Pitta is a very dynamic, active energy. If you're experiencing a lot of anger and irritability, that's probably a Pitta imbalance. The depression and the heaviness, not wanting to get out of bed, just feeling like you're moving through very thick gel, that's probably more of a Kapha imbalance. And the pain, as Shubha mentioned, is always associated with Vata, and movement that is being blocked or redirected in a direction that it's not supposed to go. So that can make you uneasy, anxious, tense and fearful. You're not feeling yourself, in other words. So as I said, this barometer, the menstrual cycle is only one thing that your practitioner might ask you about. You may come in with headaches, or you may come in with insomnia or any range of symptoms that you're experiencing. But your practitioner, if you were a woman, is going to ask you about your cycle and how you experience that, because that will give a clue to what type of imbalance you're dealing with. The other thing that we have to remember about the cycle is during your menstruation, digestion is naturally slower and not as robust, so that you need to consider that in what diet you're using during your period. So lighter, simpler foods are a much better choice than heavy, rich, oily foods. And then to enhance your digestion, you can use spices such as ginger, cardamom, cumin, coriander, fennel, cinnamon, and I didn't put up there saffron. And shift from fried foods to baked or boiled. So example, if you need protein and you're fixing chicken, and if you usually or often fry it, think about baking it. And if you usually bake it, think about boiling it. And an even lighter solution would be to stew your chicken, but just eat the broth or the soup. So you're really lightening up. Each one of those styles of cooking actually creates a lighter food for you to digest. And then if you're going to be eating pasta, think about the sauces, those creamy sauces, the oily marinara sauce. If you eat it usually with meat, try it without meat. Or even simplify it more with a simple dressing of the pasta, maybe a little olive oil with some light spices, cumin, coriander, maybe a little basil to throw it, make it tasty. And omit the cheese, just for those 3 or 4 days, and see if it makes a difference. And during your menses, actually adding a little sweetness to your diet is a good thing. It actually helps settle the doshas, settle the kapha, and settle pitta, and actually settle pitta and vata. But again, go sweet light, not sweet heavy. So a huge piece of chocolate cake with lots of frosting is not going to help your flow. But something like pomegranate juice, or there's a wonderful aloe candy that you can get that actually is sweet, but it also helps with the flow, helps with stagnation or blockages. So something sweet, not too much of any heavy chocolate or anything. You have cravings. Notice your cravings. That will also tell you something. And you can work with an Ayurvedic practitioner, and I think over time of 3 or 4 months, you can really see some differences. Okay, so let's go. Okay, some other don'ts. And these go for during your menstrual cycle as well as all month long. Do not drink ice-cold beverages. Do not skip meals. This, again, creates a lot of extra vata, a lot of extra air movement in your body, and we want to keep the body knowing that the movement is downward. We don't want to change the direction or increase the vata. Do not suppress urges to eliminate, defecation, urination, even sneezing. Those are things that will get in the way of the downward flow. Do not eat hot and spicy foods, which I mentioned in the case of Pitta. And using hormone pills to stimulate bleeding, I think that's something that doctors prescribe these days. But you can do it in a natural way by adding more cumin or ajwain to your diet. Okay? There's things that you need to do over time. Just like I said, they're not going to necessarily increase your flow overnight, but there are ways of working with the body and working with natural substances. And then aside from just paying attention to what you're doing during your cycle, there's during the month that you can start looking at some of these tips. Because the body really does benefit from routine. And so if you're having a nice routine that encompasses some of these things, when it comes time for the menses, your body is going to feel more familiar, more routine, more in sync with itself. So here we have, these are really basic daily practices for Ayurveda, people who want to incorporate Ayurveda in their life. Wake up early, and we're talking about, between 6:30, 7 at least in the morning. And avoid taking naps during the day. If you are going to rest during the day, then never lie completely prone. Prop yourself up in pillows and take a very short nap. Question? I'm suggesting this for all of the time because these are things that over time will give your body signals. Okay, so certainly continue it during menstruation, but it really is more effective if you're doing it on a daily basis. Have your meals at a consistent time. Again, your body it's a system, and it runs on a regulated system. So if you're giving it consistency, it's going to give you consistency. It's pretty simple. What you do to it, it will give back to you. Go to bed by 10 p.m. It'll allow you to get up early. Avoid electronic devices late in the evening. This is a bugaboo for all of us, since there's always email to finish or YouTube videos to watch. Do self-massage a few times a week with sesame or coconut oil. Sesame oil is good in the colder months. In this time of year, still, we're using coconut oil because we're still, although things are changing, maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, if the temperatures come down, you'll be switching to sesame oil. During your menstrual cycle, you do not want to do full body massage. What you can do is apply hot castor oil packs regionally to your abdomen, but it's not suggested for full body. And then on a daily basis, walking is probably one of the best exercises that we can do to stimulate our blood and lymph. And then, again, use digestive spices such as ginger, cardamom, saffron, cumin, and fennel. Just remembering what we input during the month is what we output. So what we input is going to affect the menstrual cycle and the downward, outward flow of menstrual blood. So a few more things. We went over ice-cold beverages. We talked about if you have heavy bleeding, which is a pitta symptom or pitta imbalance, giving up hot and spicy food is going to make a tremendous difference. I think Ananta talked about privately to me that was one of the things that she found really made a difference in her dealing with the pain that she was having. Okay, a few other remedies. Sometimes during our cycle we can be constipated. And a good remedy for that is aloe vera juice. And if you find a good quality of aloe vera juice and take 1 tablespoon after every meal, you will notice a big difference in the constipation. It's also removes, like I said before, stagnation and blockages, so it promotes a more smooth flow during your cycle. If you have intense pain, that cramping kind of pain, a castor oil pack applied to the abdomen is a good idea. So what you would do is warm some castor oil, apply it to your stomach, get a warm towel, and either wrap it or hold it gently against your abdomen so that it penetrates and you receive some relief from the pain. This should be done intermittently, not overly heated, because you don't want to overly stimulate and add too much heat to the system. For gas or bloating, there's an herb called ajwain, and if you make a tea out of that, you take the ajwain seeds, which are also bishop's weed, and steep it in some hot water. Let the water come down in temperature a little bit, and then drink that. That will alleviate some of the gas and bloating. And as Ananta said, it also has an almost immediate effect on the pain. So that's a real good basic remedy. How much ajwain in a cup of tea? I'd say half to a teaspoon of ajwain. A couple other things that you can do that are more kind of esoteric. One is meditation in the moonlight. This is very cooling, very soothing, calming, particularly under a full moon, to sit and quietly allow that light to bathe you. A moon bath rather than a sun bath. And you can wear freshwater pearls, a necklace of freshwater pearls against your skin is a traditional Ayurvedic remedy. Again, the pearls are a cooling input and can, over time, have some benefits. Okay, that's about all I have to say for now.